Viktor was a Hungarian general and warlord, born at some point in the 5th century. According to Andreas Tanis, Viktor was a ruthless and cruel feudal lord, known for ruling his domain with an iron fist. Towards the end of his life, Marcus Corvinus, the first vampire, approached Viktor with an offer: immortality in exchange for his military expertise and army to fight against the werewolves, the offspring of Marcus's own twin brother William. Marcus transformed Viktor, who then turned his army into the precursors of what would later be known as the Death Dealers. With his newly converted army of immortals, Viktor began the war against the werewolves. In the year 1202 AD, the vampires finally located and captured William. Viktor promised Marcus not to harm William, despite the uncontrollable nature of the werewolf. To address the issue without breaking his word, Viktor had Amelia, the third elder vampire, take care of William. Viktor then betrayed Marcus, ordering that William be kept as far away from Marcus as possible. Viktor imprisoned William in a fortress, where he could harm no one and create no more of his kind. However, with the Death Dealers loyal to Viktor, Marcus was powerless. Viktor kept the 2 keys to William's dungeon. The smaller part was visibly worn as a necklace by his daughter Sonia, while the larger one was always with him, even having a bronze frame welded to his ribcage to hold it inside him, where Marcus could never find it, as Viktor knew well that Marcus would free William if given the chance. The relationship between the 2 elder vampires was always tense. Viktor, with Amelia's support, undermined Marcus's authority as ruler of the Vampire Coven, ensuring that Marcus never gained the strength to free his brother. However, Viktor never orchestrated a complete seizure of power against Marcus, as he was told that if Marcus died, everyone in his bloodline, including Viktor, would follow him to the grave. To prevent this, the chain was constructed, a system where only one elder ruled while the other 2 slept. Viktor even domesticated a new enemy race for the vampires, a humanized version of werewolves known as Lycans, which he used as guard dogs to protect vampires during daylight hours. Eventually, Viktor was at the center of triggering a new war with the Lycans. Around 1210 AD, Viktor had a daughter named Sonia with a woman named Ilona. Much of Viktor's relationship with Ilona is unknown, as Ilona died in childbirth. Nearly 200 years after her birth, Sonia fell in love with a Lycan slave named Lucian and became pregnant. Viktor ultimately discovered this and feared the mix of species that would result if the child were born. He and the council sentenced Sonia, Lucian, and their unborn child to death. Sonia was burned alive by exposure to sunlight, while Lucian, chained to the ground, was forced to watch. Before his own execution, Lucian used the full moon to transform and escape, but not before taking Sonia's pendant with him. He then summoned his Lycans and original werewolves for battle, during which Viktor personally fought against Lucian. Although the elder vampire was more powerful, Lucian exploited Viktor's weakness, sunlight, to incapacitate him, and stabbed Viktor in the mouth. Viktor managed to survive and retreated with Andreas Tanis and the other elders, while the rest of the Vampire Coven was slaughtered by the Lycans. These events marked the beginning of the Vampire-Lycan War. The extent to which Viktor erased the history about Sonia is unclear, or whether he shared this information with the elders. Obviously, her absence had to be explained, and perhaps some high-ranking members, namely the elders Craven and Tanis, were informed. Selene was unaware, and it was forbidden for anyone to delve into the history of vampires. The knowledge may not have been so public if no one else survived the Lycan attack on the castle, in which case only Viktor and Tanis knew the full story. Other revised events included the responsibility for the war, which Viktor entirely blamed on Lucian. In 2003, Viktor is hibernating, not to be awakened for another 100 years. However, Selene awakens him prematurely, convinced that Lucian is still alive and that Craven has made a deal with him. An infuriated Viktor confronts his protege and condemns her to be judged. Particularly, Viktor seems more upset by Selene's relationship with a Lycan named Michael Corvin than by her claims of Craven's betrayal. Viktor orders Selene to be locked up until Amelia and the council can arrive and decide her fate, which Viktor knows will undoubtedly be a death sentence. A tearful Selene begs Viktor to allow her to present evidence of her claims, but he ignores her. Later, with the help of a vampire maid named Erica, Selene escapes the mansion, determined to find evidence and clear her name. Selene returns later that night with proof not only of Craven's betrayal, but also of Lucian's plan to use Michael's blood to create a hybrid by mixing the blood of both species. Upon learning the truth of Selene's claims and finding out that Amelia has been murdered by the Lycans, Viktor becomes enraged with Singe, the Lycan captured by Selene. Viktor strikes Singe, splitting half of his face open and killing him instantly. Viktor apologizes to Selene for not believing her, and the two set out to pursue Craven. However, none of the vampires notices Singe's blood spreading across the floor of the Elder's chamber, unaware of the consequences this will cause. Viktor quickly launches a large-scale assault on the Lycan lair, effortlessly breaking the neck of a transformed Lycan named Raze. Craven attempts to escape, but is forced to run and hide whenever he sees Viktor. Viktor eventually confronts Selene, who is in the process of biting Michael, turning him into a hybrid to save his life. Furious, Viktor throws Selene away from Michael and hurls him through a wall. Unbeknownst to Viktor, Craven had revealed the truth about Selene's family's death moments earlier. Selene, with tears in her eyes, confronts Viktor, accusing him of killing her family and murdering Sonia. Viktor tells her that he gave her immortality in exchange, a gift he insists is much more important than her family. When confronted about Sonia's death, Viktor claims he loved his daughter dearly, but was forced to kill her to protect the vampire species. Selene still clearly disagrees with Viktor's actions, and he leaves her to find and kill Michael. Viktor faces his worst fear. Selene's bite has reacted with the Lycan virus and the Corvinus strain in Michael's body, causing the emergence of both Lycan and vampire traits. Michael attacks Viktor, initially demonstrating unmatched speed and strength even for the elder vampire. However, Viktor, using Michael's lack of combat experience to his advantage, manages to subdue him. Viktor's bodyguards arrive to finish off the hybrid, but Selene neutralizes them. She is then struck aside by Viktor. Michael rushes to help her, but is overpowered by Viktor, who begins to strangle him. Seeing this, Selene decides to kill Viktor. She slices his head in half with his own sword, saving Michael and avenging both her family and Sonia at the same time. Later, Viktor's body is recovered by the Cleaners, an organization dedicated to cleaning up after the Vampire-Lycan War, led by the original immortal Alexander Corvinus. Alexander extracts the key from beneath Viktor's flesh, only for it to be snatched away by his son Marcus. Viktor's corpse is likely destroyed when Alexander Corvinus's ship explodes. Personality. Though not a pure-born vampire, Viktor is obsessed with the purity of bloodlines, as shown in his attempts to establish a hierarchy by trying to arrange for Sonia to become an elder. His fixation on blood purity is so great that he considers his victory over several Lycans as only natural, seeing them as nothing more than animals and slaves. A view shared by most other vampires, but to a slightly lesser extent. Because of this, he views the possibility of a hybrid as an abomination and takes extreme measures to prevent such a creature from existing. Viktor also sees immortality as a gift above all else, as seen when he tries to reason with Selene upon discovering that he had killed her family, that his gift to Selene should more than compensate for what he took from her. This interest in blood purity is also exhibited in Viktor's false claims that he and Amelia are pure-born vampires. In both Underworld and the Rise of the Lycans, Viktor is portrayed as a skilled but authoritarian leader of the vampire race. He is also power-hungry and quite manipulative, taking steps to alter the vampires' history books to be seen as the first and most powerful of all vampires. He rules over Marcus and undermines his power at every step with Amelia as his ally, even banishing the vampire historian Tannis, the only vampire who knew the truth. However, he is also extremely arrogant and equally brutal with anyone who disobeys the rules created by him and the Council. This is possibly the driving factor of Lucian's rebellion against the vampires and causes Viktor to gain a fair number of enemies, even among his own kind such as Tannis, Marcus, and Kalaman, among others. As Tannis noted, Viktor is not known to express gratitude for anything. Apparently, he also doesn't adhere to the rules he himself implemented, as noted by Craven when speaking about the murder of Selene's family, implying that Viktor continued attacking and feeding directly from humans, despite it being forbidden to other vampires. Despite this, he forces other vampires to strictly follow the council's rules and is quick to punish or kill anyone who disobeys those rules. Viktor is also portrayed as a caring father to both Sonya and Selene. With Sonya, he trains her as a warrior and frequently overlooks Sonya's constant absences from council meetings and her frequent disobedience. He is even willing to work on the council to save her life after discovering her affair with Lucian, but refuses when he learns she is pregnant with Lucian's child. Despite ordering her execution, Sonya's death haunts Viktor for the rest of his life. This immense guilt led him to save Selene from the murder of her family due to her striking resemblance to his daughter, raising her as his heir in all but name. However, Viktor places the integrity of the vampire bloodline above all else and has no hesitations about having Sonya executed after discovering her pregnancy and tried to kill Selene for her relationship with Michael, who was a Lycan at the time. Despite this, he shows genuine, albeit momentary, signs of sadness for these actions. However, he sees Lucian as responsible for his daughter's death, despite Lucian always being a loyal servant to the vampires and having saved Sonya's life on more than one occasion. Viktor's intransigence and reluctance to compromise prove to be his downfall. Because he gets his way and is power-hungry, he is quick-tempered and violent. Most of the time, he is selfish, vengeful, cruel, and hypocritical. He is not completely amoral, nor is he a true sociopath, although his attempts to portray himself as the first vampire would suggest an extreme case of narcissism. His black and white thinking, unstable relationships, uncontrollable anger, and accusations of betrayal and abandonment hint at a borderline personality disorder. He does have traits like affection and loyalty, examples being Sonya, Selene, and Lucian at one time, and in cases like the murder of Selene's family and the death of Sonya, he silently acknowledges he was wrong. But the security of his power placed it above all priorities and moralities. Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed my video, I'd love to recommend another one for you to watch.